They said I didn't deserve the inheritance, so I showed them Grandma's real will, filed just in time. Hi, I'm Nathan, 38, and last Tuesday my sister told me Grandma left me the beach house by mistake. Then she slid a pen across the table and said, "Sign it over." She meant it for my kids. We were sitting in a law office that smelled like lemon cleaner and fake compassion. Kayla, my older sister by 2 years and a lifetime of entitlement, had already filled in the address on the settlement agreement. She smiled like this was a done deal. My mom nodded like her cue was in the script. "Do the right thing, Nathan." I glanced down at the paper in front of me. Surfside Beach. Grandma's house. The one with the warped deck, the sun-faded shutters, the kitchen table that always wobbled unless you shoved a folded napkin under one leg. My name was printed at the top in bold, clean legal font. Nathan Charles Adler. The sole heir, apparently by accident. Kayla leaned forward, faux gentle. She was 91. She got confused near the end. "You know that." I didn't reply. My 7-year-old son, Ben, sat next to me with a coloring book on his lap and his headphones halfway on. He wasn't listening, but he was very much hearing. "She wasn't confused," I said quietly. "Not when she made this decision." Mom's voice softened. "Nathan, honey, don't make this difficult." Kayla pushed the pen toward me like it was a gift. "You're not even around that much. You're in St. Louis now, right? What would you do with a beach house?" I exhaled slowly. "I don't know. Maybe let my son build sandcastles in peace without needing to book it on Kayla's rental calendar." Mr. Ellison, the attorney, cleared his throat, clearly regretting his life choices. "The document filed with the court is from 2019 and names Nathan as the devisee of the property." Mom jumped in before he could finish. "And he's going to do the right thing." Ben paused his coloring, looked up, then slowly went back to shading in a dolphin. I didn't speak. Not yet. I just reached into my messenger bag and pulled out a sealed envelope, slid it across the table without a word. Kayla's face froze mid-smile. Mr. Ellison opened it. Inside, Grandma's 2023 will. Signed. Notarized. Witnessed. Drafted by her brother, my great-uncle Simon, who, by the way, is a practicing attorney in the state of Texas. Mr. Ellison blinked. Read. Blinked again. "This changes everything." Kayla blinked like she'd swallowed a lemon seed. "Wait, what is that?" she asked, already knowing. Uncle Simon stepped into the room from the side hallway, slow and deliberate, wearing his usual gray blazer and courtroom expression. "That," he said, "is Evelyn Adler's most recent and legally binding will." Mom's mouth went tight. "Simon, what are you doing here?" He didn't look at her. "Making sure my sister's final wishes aren't steamrolled by family politics." Kayla stood. "This is ridiculous. Grandma told me she wanted the house to go to the twins." I tilted my head. "She also told me she wanted you to stop letting them eat Pop-Tarts for dinner, but I guess we're ignoring her last wishes now." Mr. Ellison adjusted his glasses and read aloud. "I, Evelyn May Adler, being of sound mind and body, do hereby revoke all previous wills and declare this to be my last will and testament." He skimmed down. "And the Surfside Beach property is left to Nathan Charles Adler, in trust for the benefit of his son, Benjamin Adler." Ben looked up again at the sound of his name. "Did I do something?" "No, Bud," I said, squeezing his hand. "You're just part of a legacy now." Kayla crossed her arms. "So what? You're the trustee and you get to play gatekeeper?" Uncle Simon answered before I could. "Yes, that's how trusts work. You should read more." Mom leaned in, voice low and disappointed. "Nathan, honey, this isn't how we do things. We're a family. We support each other." I met her eyes. Funny, because when I asked for help with Ben's medical bills last year, Kayla said I should have picked a better insurance plan. So forgive me if I'm suddenly a little allergic to family support. Mr. Ellison flipped to the last page. "This will supersedes the 2019 version, which means the agreement you were about to sign is legally null and inadvisable." Kayla's face was stone. "You already signed. You can't undo that." "I signed based on false pretenses," I said calmly. "You presented the wrong will and pressured me. That's not an agreement. That's a setup." Uncle Simon handed a second document to Mr. Ellison, and that's a motion to void the settlement, along with an affidavit from Evelyn's caregiver confirming she was of sound mind when this will was signed. Mom's voice rose, sharp this time. This is about punishing us, isn't it? No, I said. This is about protecting my son. Ben leaned his head on my arm. Can we still go to the beach house? I smiled. Yeah, buddy. We can. By the time we left the lawyer's office, Kayla looked like someone had just told her no for the first time in her life. She stormed out without saying goodbye. Mom stayed seated, her lips pressed so tight you'd think she was holding in a secret. Uncle Simon patted my shoulder once. Nice work staying calm. That's their worst nightmare. Appreciate you coming, I said. You'd have done the same for Ben, he replied. Besides, your grandma planned for this. She told me to make sure they didn't twist it into a family favor. Her words. I nodded slowly, still not quite letting myself believe it was over. Because with my family, it's never over. They don't take no as an answer. They just hear it as, try a different strategy. Sure enough, that night, it began. At 9:42 p.m., my phone lit up with a text from Mom. Mom, let's not make this a permanent rift. Mom, I know this has been emotional. Mom, we can talk tomorrow. Maybe Kayla can still use the beach house sometimes? I didn't reply. At 10:03 p.m., a notification from an app I'd forgotten I had. The smart lock Grandma had installed last year had been accessed. Entry code 7784. That was Kayla's. I froze. Ben was asleep on the couch with a blanket half off. I walked to my laptop and pulled up the access logs. 3 entries, all within the last 2 days. Kayla had already been in the house. Before today, before she knew the will had changed. She'd been planning to take possession like it was already hers. Then came the kicker. The next morning, I got an email from the Surfside HOA. Subject, unauthorized short-term rental violation. I opened it and stared. There it was. A listing. Photos of Grandma's couch, Grandma's bedspread, even the old beach towels stacked by the bathroom. Title, Charming Family Retreat. Walk to Shore. Host name, Kay Adler. She hadn't just planned to take it. She'd already rented it out. I didn't scream. I didn't yell. I opened a folder on my desktop and labeled it. Probate, evidence. Then I started collecting. The next 48 hours were like watching someone try to rob a house while waving at the security camera. Kayla doubled down. She sent me a voice memo that started with, "Look, I don't want to fight," and ended with, "But it's not like you were even close to Grandma." Yes, the classic contradiction strategy. Charm with one hand, swing with the other. I didn't respond. I just saved it. File name, Kayla_voice memo_rationalize_threaten. MP3. Meanwhile, the HOA forwarded me 2 complaints from neighbors. Turns out the family who rented the place had parked their SUV on the front lawn, let their dog poop on the beach path, and played country music until 1 a.m. I called the property manager listed on the VBO account. Hi, I'm Nathan Adler. I believe my family is illegally renting a house held in trust for my son. Dead silence on the other end. Then, we were told the listing was legal. It's not, I said. And you'll be hearing from my attorney. I called Uncle Simon. He chuckled darkly. You got the HOA email? Yep. And the rental listing? Saved and screenshotted. Good. Send it all. Also, your cousin Anna's a paralegal. She's prepping the cease and desist. That night, Ben and I made popcorn and watched How to Train Your Dragon in pajamas. He laughed so hard at the sheep scene, he almost spilled his juice. Then he turned to me, serious. Dad, are the bad guys gone? I hesitated. They're still trying, but we're not letting them win. He nodded like that was enough. The next morning, Mom showed up. On my doorstep. With muffins. Store-bought muffins. Nathan, she said, in that syrupy voice she saves for holiday church services. Let's be reasonable. You know Kayla's having a hard time. I leaned against the doorframe. So she breaks into a house she doesn't own and tries to profit off of it? Mom flinched. She just wants something for her boys. I stared at her. And what about Ben? She didn't answer. She just said, let's not tear the family apart over a building. I smiled, not kindly. It's not a building. It's a boundary. She blinked, then left the muffins and walked away without another word. Inside, Ben asked, are those for me? Nope, I said, tossing them straight into the trash. Those are for guilt. And we're not eating guilt. By Friday, the cease and desist was filed, notarized, and sent to both Kayla and the property management company. Uncle Simon CC'd me on the email, along with the HOA, the county probate office, and, for some reason, our cousin Lisa, who works at a title insurance company and has a petty streak I admire deeply. That same morning, the VBO listing disappeared. Poof, like it had never existed. But the fallout? Oh, it was coming. At 11:12 a.m., I got a text from Kayla. It was 5 paragraphs long, but the highlights included, "You're blowing this out of proportion. Grandma would be devastated if she knew you were weaponizing the legal system against your own family. I was just trying to honor her memory by letting other people enjoy the space. And the crown jewel. It's just a house, Nathan. You're choosing a house over your blood." I stared at that one for a minute, then replied with one sentence. "Blood doesn't entitle you to my kid's inheritance." Uncle Simon called me that afternoon. Guess who got served with a formal complaint? Kayla. And your mother. They co-signed the rental listing. Apparently, your mom was answering guest messages under the name Linda R. Are 4 really shady? I offered. Simon chuckled. We'll also be filing for a full audit of any income received through the illegal rentals. If they deposited anything into a shared account, we'll find it. Meanwhile, Ben and I were packing, because I decided it was time. Time to go to the beach house. I didn't tell Mom. I didn't tell Kayla. I booked a locksmith, packed snacks, grabbed the original 2023 will and trust docs, and hit the road. When we pulled up to the house, Ben whispered, "It's real." It was sunset, the kind that made the sky look like it was painted in melted sherbet. We stepped inside. The smell hit first, salt air, old books, a faint trace of Grandma's lavender detergent. Ben ran straight to the back window. "I see the ocean." I walked through slowly, touching everything like I needed to confirm it was all still here. Still ours. On the living room wall was the framed photo of Grandma holding baby Ben at the beach. It had been moved, replaced during the rental staging, but someone had forgotten it in a drawer. I hung it back up, and then I did something small but meaningful. I jammed a folded napkin under the wobbly leg of the kitchen table. Ben looked at me. "That's what Grandma used to do." "Yep," I said. "Some things aren't broken. They just have history." The next morning, I brewed coffee in Grandma's dented metal percolator and sat on the porch with Ben, watching seagulls fight over a sandwich crust some tourist left behind. Ben leaned on my arm. "Can we stay here forever?" I smiled. "Not forever, but this is ours now. No one can take it away." That turned out to be almost true. At 10:07 a.m., I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I answered. Nathan Adler. A pause. Then Mom's voice, icy calm. "I hope you're proud of yourself." "Good morning to you too," I said, sipping my coffee. "We were just trying to preserve family equity," she said, like she was reading it off a business card she didn't understand. "You mean commit will fraud?" I said. "You always twist things," she snapped. Kayla is devastated. She listed a trust asset on a rental site without authorization. She can be devastated and also legally liable. There was a pause. Then Mom shifted tone, like she was turning on an old song. "Your grandmother wouldn't want this." "She didn't want this," I corrected. "That's why she left the house to Ben. In trust. That's why she went to Uncle Simon. That's why she notarized every page and locked it in a safe." More silence. "You've changed," she said. "No," I replied. I stopped apologizing for setting boundaries. Then I hung up. Ben and I spent the afternoon restocking the pantry, replacing linens, and reclaiming the place inch by inch. We found one of Grandma's old shell jars in the closet. Ben poured it out onto the porch table and started organizing them by size and color, just like Emma used to do when she was little. Later, when I checked my email, I saw an alert from the county probate clerk. Subject, filed document received. Will of Evelyn May Adler, 2023. Uncle Simon had filed it. Officially, the 2019 version was revoked and flagged. The trust was active. The Surfside Beach House was now legally and formally held for Ben. That night, we grilled hot dogs on the rusted little backyard barbecue and ate on paper plates. I asked Ben, "So what do you want to do with the place?" He thought about it for a second, then said, "I want to make it nice, but still weird." "Perfect," I said. We were halfway through repainting the porch swing. Ben insisted on dragon green. When Kayla showed up, no knock, no warning, just the crunch of tires on the gravel driveway and the sound of her voice cutting through the salty air like a chainsaw. "This is insane, Nathan." Ben froze mid-stroke. I set the paintbrush down. She stepped out of her car like she still owned something here. She didn't even glance at Ben, just marched up the steps. You filed the 2023 will without telling us? No. I presented the 2023 will at the signing. You ignored it. That's different. Her mouth twisted. You blindsided us. You tried to rent out a house that legally belonged to my son, Kayla. Her eyes narrowed. So what? He's 7. Exactly, I said, stepping forward. He's 7, and you tried to steal from him. That's not stealing. You forged a narrative, withheld a newer will, pressured me into signing over property that didn't belong to you, and made money off it before probate was even settled. That's fraud with a bow on it. Ben, still holding the paintbrush, whispered, Dad. I turned. Go inside, buddy. Watch your show. He didn't argue. Just gave Kayla the same look I used to give her when we were kids, and she'd pretend to fall down, crying to get me grounded. Once he was gone, she snapped. Mom says you've been brainwashed by Uncle Simon. That's funny, I said, because he's the only one who didn't lie to my face. Kayla's face went pale with fury. You think you're the victim? You've always had it easier. Easier? I laughed. I moved states with a toddler, held 2 jobs after the divorce, and still had to ask Mom for help paying Ben's ER visit last year, and you mocked me for it. That's not fair. What's not fair, I cut in, is that you expected this house to be a consolation prize for your bad planning. But it's not. It's Ben's. And Grandma made sure of that. She folded her arms. This is revenge. No, I said. This is accountability. And it makes you uncomfortable because it's new. Kayla stared at me. For a moment, I thought she might cry. But then she just turned and walked back to her car without another word. I went back inside. Ben was on the couch with a juice box, watching cartoons like nothing had happened. You okay? I asked. He nodded. Was she mad? Maybe, I said, sitting beside him. But we're not. It's been 6 weeks since we filed the real will. The trust is secure. The beach house title officially lists Ben's name with me as trustee. The HOA backed off after receiving Uncle Simon's very thorough letter, and the property management company refunded 2 illegal rentals directly into the trust account. Interest on that alone could pay for a few years of college books. Kayla hasn't called. Mom tried once more, left a voicemail saying she hopes we can all heal from this someday. I saved it in a folder labeled Nice Try. Ben and I have made this house a home again. We kept the chipped shell lamp in the guest room. We hung up a photo of Grandma by the front door. She's holding Ben in a beach towel, sunglasses crooked on her nose, smiling like she knew exactly how this would all play out. Emma came down for the weekend last Saturday. She's 11 now, with Grandma's steel in her spine and her own sharp eye for nonsense. We walked the shoreline, the 3 of us, collecting shells. Emma found one shaped like a heart and said, I think this was hers. Ben said, It smells like her here. Yeah, I said. It always will. That night, the 3 of us sat at the wobbly kitchen table eating grilled cheese and tomato soup, napkins still jammed under the leg. Emma drew a sketch of the house with a speech bubble that said, No bad vibes. Ben asked if we could put it on the fridge. So everyone knows. Knows what? I asked. That it's ours. He didn't mean it legally. He meant it the way kids do, emotionally, spiritually, that deep knowing when something belongs to you. I tucked them into bed in the room with the bunk beds Grandma bought when Emma was 3. I kissed their heads. I turned off the lights. And then I sat on the porch swing alone. Salt air. Stars above. The faint sound of waves on the shore. For years, I let my family twist me into their version of easy. Don't rock the boat. Don't say no. Be flexible. Be smooth. But when they tried to rewrite my son's future with a Sharpie and a fake smile, I found a kind of calm I didn't know I had. Not loud. Not flashy. Just firm. A trust is a legal term, yes. But for me, it's also a promise. Ben and Emma will grow up knowing they weren't negotiable. That when it came down to it, their dad picked them over tradition, over guilt, over pressure disguised as love. And that matters more than any beach house ever will.